Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey, everybody. Ooh, that's really bright, isn't it? It was like light. Hi, everybody. How you doing? It's your girl, Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Film Critic. I am back for another live episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. If this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know that you were here. Click that bell for notifications if you are on the YouTube. And let's get right on into it. I usually talk about what I did the day before or the week before leading up to today. So this weekend is my alma mater, Howard University's 100th homecoming. And that is a picture from when I was homecoming queen at Howard for the School of Communication. So I would be remiss in not honoring my beloved Mecca without showing you that picture. Then I hit the Hollywood Boulevard with Rafi and Jen to talk about all things Apprentice on Rafi Talks. Stay tuned for when that goes live. I also went to a couple of screenings. I saw The Seed of the Sacred Fig, which will be coming out later on this year, and I saw The Brutalist, which will be coming out later this year. Both of those films are pretty long, so buckle up, baby. Then I'm going to go in a few days to the fourth annual celebration of Latino cinema and television, where we are honoring Zoe Saldana, among others. And it is going to be hosted on the red carpet by our own Tony Gonzalez. Congratulations, Tony. And then we're going to get into the AFI Fest, which starts in 3 days here in Hollywood at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel from October 23rd through the 27th. So if you have not checked out the AFI Fest or you want more information, go to fest.afi.com. Goodrich is a film that is in theaters now, starring one of my favorite all-time movie stars, Mr. Michael Keaton. It is directed by Hallie Myers Shy, and it stars Mila Kunis and Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton plays art dealer Andy Goodrich, and his life gets upended when his younger wife leaves him and enters a 90-day rehab program. His wife, by the way, is played by the fantabulous Laura Benanti. Also, while she's threatening him with a divorce. Anyway, Andy takes charge of their 9-year-old twins, and this whole situation thrusts him into the world of modern parenthood, for which he is deeply unprepared. And when I say deeply unprepared, I mean my boy did not see it coming. With his career failing, meaning his art gallery is having some issues and going by the wayside, he soon leans in on his pregnant daughter, played by Mila Kunis, for support, ultimately becoming the father she never had. Now, this is what I will say about this film. It's a wonderful film, only because not everybody, but everybody knows somebody, or everybody comes from a family where your parent has remarried and they now have 2 sets of children, and somehow either the second set of children or the first set of children end up getting neglected. In this case, it's the first set of children, and the first set of children would be the first child, which is Mila Kunis. And she spends her whole life trying to make her father a priority. And she drops everything for him. He doesn't do the same for her. And it eventually comes to a head with a fantabulous monologue by Mila Kunis, where she kind of calls Andy out for not being there for her. He ultimately gets his crap together. His wife comes back home, and everybody kind of gets on a new track. But when I tell you Mila Kunis, this is probably one of her best performances to date, other than the Black Swan, which I kind of love. And Michael Urie, who we all know and love from Ugly Betty, he's also on Broadway right now in Once Upon a Mattress, and he's on the TV show, Shrinking. He's on a TV show Shrinking. He got a lot going on right now. But in this film, he plays a gay dad who isn't quite reading the signals. He's getting the signals mixed up, and he makes a play for Andy. And the way that that is played out and the way the dialogue is written to help that whole situation play out is absolutely chef's kiss spectacular. Goodrich is in theaters right now. It was released on October 18th. Do yourselves a favor and check it out. Having some problems here with this mouse. Sorry. Now let's get into The Apprentice. But before we get into The Apprentice, I want to talk about this documentary that came out a few weeks ago called Stopping the Steal. Now, as we all know, Donald Trump has been screaming and hollering for the last 4 years about how the election was stolen. Well, baby, HBO Max to be specific, has a documentary directed by Dan Reed where they go into detail recounting in detail the former staff members of the Trump administration, Republican political appointees, and elected state officials. It tracks the movement to discredit the 2020 presidential election. It unfolds chronologically, and the documentary explores and debunks the claims of ballot tampering, illegal immigrants, and deceased people voting and hacking or malfunction of the Dominion voting system's electronic ballot. This is what I got to say about that. It is amazing to me how people literally like, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is that we are in the middle of an election cycle right now. We will be voting for the president of the United States, among some other positions, in less than a month, like less than 3 weeks, actually, on November 4th. So I think it's important to talk about these things now since they're out there for people to see, and they're not getting a whole lot of attention. So I'm bringing the attention to you with these projects because I think it deserves to be talked about. So Stopping the Steal. What I find interesting is Alyssa Farah Griffin, who is also a host on The View, worked on the staff with Donald Trump when he was president. She is part of this documentary, and she is one of the people debunking everything. The one thing that I found the most fascinating is that she said there was one day after the election, after January 6th and all that stuff happened, that she walked past a room that Donald Trump was in, and he looked back at her and he said, "Hey, can you believe I lost to this guy?" So he knows he lost the 2020 election. He's just stoking the flames for whatever reason. And when you watch Stopping the Steal, whether you believe the election was stolen or not, pay attention to the facts because they are all present and laid out for you in that documentary, which is streaming on HBO Max right now. Speaking of Donald Trump, there is a movie that is in theaters right now called The Apprentice. And no, it is not this Apprentice. It is not the TV show with Donald Trump. It is a movie starring Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong and Maria Bakalova, who plays Ivana Trump. This is what is interesting. We find out some things about him that we didn't know. We find out some things that we do know. It's directed by Ali Abbasi, and it goes back all the way back to a young Donald Trump who's eager to make a name for himself as a hungry second son of a wealthy family in 1970s New York. He comes under the spell of cutthroat lawyer Roy Cohn. Cohn sees in Trump the perfect protege, someone with raw ambition, a hunger for success, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to win. This is the thing about The Apprentice. I have been saying for I don't even know how long I've been saying this, but I've been saying for years, I could not for the life of me understand why nobody was talking about Donald Trump's affiliation with Roy Cohn. If you are not familiar with who Roy Cohn is, he was a very cutthroat lawyer. Like I said, he was the person that had a hand in getting the Rosenbergs uh, executed. The Rosenbergs were in, I think, I want to say somewhere between the 40s and the 60s, were accused of being Russian spies. And Roy Cohn made sure that they were put to death. Roy Cohn also led the charge when it came to the Hollywood blacklist, among other things. When he met Donald Trump, he said that he would do anything for America. You're going to hear some things that you hear Donald Trump say all the time. He talks very highly against liberals. Roy Cohn was convicted 3 times, and I'm sorry, indicted 3 times and never convicted. He admitted that he was behind the Rosenbergs, and his rules for winning were simply this: attack, attack, attack. Admit nothing, deny everything, and no matter what happens, no matter what they say, never admit defeat. Always, always thought that the rules did not apply to him. Does it sound familiar? Roy Cohn is highly responsible for Donald Trump's behavior. Donald Trump looked to Roy Cohn as like a father figure, right? And he learned everything that he learned about the law through Roy Cohn, and subsequently found lawyers along the way that would help him maneuver and manipulate his legal problems. This man has been indicted 34, 36 times, but he's never been convicted. Sound familiar? So when you see The Apprentice, you will be like, oh, that's where that came from. He also taught, and you'll see this in the movie, he also taught Trump to always file a lawsuit and make them prove that you are whatever it is that they're claiming. Do you remember how many times he's filed lawsuits against people that filed a lawsuit against him or indicted him or sued him? Sound familiar? Okay. What I will say is the soundtrack is great. It uses a lot of 70s music, like I'm Your Boogeyman by KC and the Sunshine Band, while the building is being erected, the Trump building's being erected. They play Beautiful Dreamer as he's trying to seduce a young Ivana Trump. And he has to, and Cohn also taught him, you have to be willing to exploit your enemies and instill fear. Exploit your enemies and instill fear. You also have to be willing to do anything for America to safeguard democracy. These are the ideologies that Donald Trump lives his life by today, that were introduced to him by Roy Cohn. And you find out about all of this in the Apprentice movie. Sebastian Stan plays Donald Trump. He is phenomenal. Only second to Jeremy Strong, who you guys know has won several Emmys for Succession. His portrayal of Roy Cohn in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. I would love to see him get recognized for his work in this film, because it's something to behold. It really is. It's amazing to see Stan morph into Trump, his speech pattern, his attitude, and his mannerisms. But it's even more impressive to watch Jeremy Strong become Roy Cohn. Like I said, The Apprentice is in theaters right now. Make sure you check them both out. Make sure you check out Stopping the Steal. Let me find Stopping the Steal. Make sure you check out Stopping the Steal, and make sure you check out The Apprentice. All right. Oh, I want to show this picture too. This is Maria playing Ivana Trump. It's amazing, the likeness, right? And that is Sebastian Stan as Donald Trump. All right. Road Diary. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Baby, I got my entire life watching this, only because, and I've said this many times before, many times before. I was a background singer for a split second. I've sung background for Sam Harris, who was on Star Search. I've recorded with him. I sang background for Tracy Chapman on tour, her Let It Rain tour. I was the only background vocalist that she had. The band members sang background, but I was the only background vocalist that you saw on stage with her. If you don't believe me, go to Austin City Limits and look up Tracy Chapman, and you will see me behind her in a black dress. And I sang background for Michael Bolton. I sang background for Phoebe Snow, for a plethora of people over the years. So when I heard that Bruce Springsteen was doing a documentary documenting his road trips, I was very interested in that, because I really dig Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, and I never really knew their story. It's gonna come to Disney Plus and Hulu on October 25th, which is toward the end of this coming week. But the film follows Springsteen and the E Street Band through a one-of-a-kind preparation process onto performances for thousands across countries. Life, it basically chronicles their life on the road, what goes with it, and each song marks an important chapter in his personal life and his road life. He pays homage to band members that are no longer with him, like Clarence Clemens, whose nephew is now playing who is now playing saxophone in the band with him. They talk about his wife Patty. She now has cancer, so she's choosing, which tour date she goes out on and which tour date she doesn't, because she needs to save her energy and concentrate on being well. You see his kids, his children are very much involved in the project. It is literally like being it's like being at a Springsteen concert, but you are in your living room watching it. It is absolutely spectacular. I had the best time watching it, and I also didn't know how heavily Black music in the Black church, how heavily that influence was into his music. He does a version of um Night Shift, which was a song that I think the Temptations recorded that song. Yeah, it was the Temptations. They recorded a song called Night Shift, and it was to honor Marvin Gaye when he passed away, and a couple of other people when they passed away. But Bruce Springsteen uses it to pay homage to his band members that are no longer with us. And one of the things that he says that I thought was so wonderful is he talks about he talks about um standing on the shoulders of those that come before you. He talks about, and he said this, he says, at 15, there are a lot more tomorrows and hellos. And later on, there are a lot more yesterdays and goodbyes. It makes me cry every time I think about it. And he does an intro, and that's part of the intro into a song that he sings called Last Man Standing, because he literally is the last man standing from his original rock group. You learn how a set list is put together for people when they are doing their concerts, something that I learned when I sang background for Tracy. How important the set list is. People sell those set lists and get millions and thousands of dollars for them. He also picks random songs for the audience, or that come from the audience that the band performs, to keep the band and himself on their toes so that they don't get stuck in a rut of singing the same thing and doing the same show over and over and over again. Um, I have a whole new respect for his musicianship and his artistry after watching this. And I love the fact that he commands his audience like a choir master. There was one song where he was, um, I think he was doing shout, where they go, let's sing a little louder now, let's sing a little louder now. That song right there, and it gets softer and softer and softer and louder and louder and louder. He did it to the point where there was nothing playing and it was dead silence, and the audience did exactly what he said. That is a star. That is a musician, and that is somebody who commands their craft like no one I have ever seen. Again, it is called Road Diary, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, and it is going to be streaming via Hulu and Disney Plus on what? October 25th, y'all. It's coming. All right. Conclave. I love this movie. Y'all have heard me talk about this movie 5,000 times. I love me some Conclave. Conclave is a film that I saw at the Telluride Film Festival, and at this point, it's made all the festival rounds and is now a very integral part of the awards conversation. It is directed by Edward Berger. It stars Isabella Rossellini, Stanley Tucci, and Ray Fiennes. The gist of it is this: Cardinal Lawrence is tasked with one of the world's most secretive ancient events, participating in the selection of a new pope. He's surrounded by powerful religious leaders in the halls of the Vatican, and soon uncovers a trail of deep secrets that could shake the very foundation of the Roman Catholic Church. Now, what you don't know about me is that I grew up Kojic in the Church of God in Christ, and then we converted to Catholicism, and I actually got confirmed through Catholicism when I was in Australia. So Conclave was a huge interest to me because I thought, oh, I wonder what they're going to say about the Catholic Church. Baby, they let the Catholic Church have it within an inch of its life. And to me, this movie is hands down one of the best movies of the year. It's based on a novel by the same name that was released in 2016. And it gives an audience an insight into how a pope is actually chosen. Like, I know we see on television when they do it and they got the black smoke and the white smoke and all of that, but this goes like razor deep into it. It also tells you how scandals are dealt with within the Catholic Church, how some of them are swept under the rug and how some of them just burst out in the open due to no fault of their own. There are fantastic performances all the way around. Isabella Rossellini excels in this film, and she excels in a way that Viola Davis excelled in Doubt. She has most of the movie has gone by, and girlfriend, you see her, but she don't say one word. But baby, when she does talk, you are bound to listen. Um, it's I just can't say enough about it. And the cast alone is worth checking it out for. The cast alone is worth checking it out for. So just to reiterate, let me tell you, the AFI Fest is coming up from October 23rd to the 27th. Goodrich is in theaters now. Oh, also at the AFI Fest, Maria is finally going to have their red carpet premiere with Angelina Jolie, and so is Heretic with Hugh Grant. Both films I have seen and highly recommend them. Stopping the Steal is on HBO Max right now. The Apprentice is in theaters right now. You want to check that out as well. And again, Road Diary with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band on Disney and Hulu Plus. When I come back, I'll be talking about some other things. But before I go, let me just tell you I did this. So there's a documentary called Sugarcane, and I didn't show y'all this picture, I think, before, but I did a conversation called Half Hour with, it was sponsored by National Geographic, and I spoke with the director, Julian Brave Noisecat, and his co-director, Emily Cassie. We did a whole half hour talking about Sugarcane, and Sugarcane has just gotten 8 Critics' Choice nominations, and it seems to be the darling of the award season right now. Hey, Sav Productions, I'm glad to see you here. Thanks for popping in. Love you much. You know I do. Yeah, so check out Sugarcane if you have not seen her already. I've seen the film and it is absolutely wonderful. It deals with Julian's family. So let me just give you a little bit of background on it. So Julian's family, he teams with Emily. Emily reached out to him and said, hey, we are checking out this Indian residential school that has a history of abuse and missing children. And it's near the Sugarcane Reserve. Come to find out, one of the children that were abused on that reservation was Julian's father. So there's a whole backstory with them, and I don't want to get into it because I don't want you to get it all from me and not get it from the actual film itself. But I did want to tell you about it. So Sugarcane. Last but not least, I want to get into this Menendez brothers situation. So the Menendez brothers, for lack of a better way to say it, have been in the news a lot the last couple of weeks or so, mostly because there has been a whole new resurgence of interest in them and their case from social media influencers. They have started pages on Instagram and Facebook and every place else, and they are now demanding that the case be looked at because they believe that at the time that their case happened 30 some odd years ago, that people didn't take them seriously because they look like 2 white boys. They're not 2 white boys. Their last name is Menendez. They're Latino, okay? Their father was Latino. They are Latino. They are not white. They're Blanca Latinos, but they are Latinos. Okay. Having said that, this new documentary streaming on Netflix is called simply called The Menendez Brothers. It's directed by Alejandro Hartman, and what it deals with is it tells the true crime story of Eric and Lyle Menendez, who were found guilty of slaughtering their parents and remain in prison some 30 years later. That's what the gist of it is. It starts with the 911 call the night of the murders from Eric and Lyle, and it goes forward from there. It goes chronologically and tells you everything that's happening. The first trial that they had resulted in a hung jury, which meant they stayed in jail, but they weren't set free. Then what happens is they end up having a second trial. And during the course between the first and the second trial, they're doing a lot of press. They're talking to Barbara Walters. They're talking to all these people to garner sympathy for their case to possibly let them out. And then what happens is Lyle ends up becoming pen pals with this woman and having phone calls with this woman who's recording the phone calls, saving the letters, and she turns them over. And that results in them getting a life sentence because old boy just couldn't keep his mouth shut. This is and so now forward to now, there's recently surfaced evidence, and I'm going to read this because I don't want to paraphrase. Recently surfaced new evidence appears to support the Menendez brothers in their claims of abuse from their father that may force the current LA District Attorney George Gascon's hand in reviewing their life sentences. The first involved new revelations by Roy Rosello, a former member of the boy band Menudo, of which Ricky Martin was a member of, and the second was a recently discovered letter from 18-year-old Eric to his cousin Andy Cano in December of 1988, in which he related his father's abuse. This new evidence may overturn the Menendez brothers' conviction upheld by their second trial. What does that mean? That means that they could possibly be set free. That's what it means. So when you watch this documentary, for those of you, I lived through this because the funny thing about this is they got sentenced to jail through this with first no, they got sentenced for the first trial. When they got sentenced, not sentenced, when they went to jail for the first trial and they were in jail for the first trial, and that had happened and it resulted in the hung jury. 6 months later is when the OJ thing happened. OJ got out. So OJ had a team of lawyers that got him out of jail, but the Menendez brothers stayed in jail. And then people were all pissy. And so this is the thing about this particular case. You're either Camp Menendez or you're not. If you're Camp Menendez, you're basically like, okay, I believe them. How can you be that good of an actor saying that your father abused you in such detail and then have other family members back you up? On the other hand, people like they were great actors. They said and did what they needed to do to try to get out. We will never know what the situation is. We will only know the facts that have been presented to us either through the trial or through the media. I remember Dominic Dunn at the time was a very prominent writer. I think he wrote primarily for Vanity Fair, and he felt some kind of way because his daughter was murdered, so he was all over it, and he made it seem like that they were he didn't do them any favors. Let me just put it that way. I don't want to paraphrase, but he didn't do them any favors. But yeah, so that I suggest you watch that documentary because I'm always fascinated by these true crime documentaries, and the people that commit these crimes because I never quite understand why any other human being thinks it's okay to take another person's life, regardless of the circumstances. That is never okay. I don't care what the circumstances are. That is not your job to take their life. That's how I personally feel about it. I would love to know how y'all feel about it, but that's how I feel about it. As far as the Menendez brothers are concerned, I don't have an opinion about them one way or the other. I feel like whatever is meant for them is meant for them. And if they're meant to be released, they'll be released, but they would not want to mess up if they get out. Just saying. All right, y'all. So let me recap and then we're going to talk about what we're going to do next week. So again, check out the AFI Fest at fest.afi.com. Goodrich is in theaters. Heretic and Maria are premiering at the AFI Fest. If you are in Los Angeles, you can check it out. I'm not sure if they are streaming in other cities, but they may be. Check out Sugarcane. Check out The Apprentice. Check out Road Diary, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And of course, check out Conclave. What are you saying in here? I cannot believe they could be out for murder. I'm just saying, it's bananas. It's bananas. And what's going to happen is if they get out for murder, then everybody and their mama going to be trying to get folk out for murder as a result of that. It's crazy that is even a possibility. Okay. Next week, I am doing something very special with my girl, Carla Sofia Gascon. So be on the lookout for that in accordance with Amelia Perez, I will be talking about I'm finally going to be talking about Memoir of a Snail. I know y'all have been like, you've been talking about, you're going to talk about Memoir of a Snail for weeks. I know I have, but I really am going to talk about it next week. I'm going to be reviewing in the next coming weeks of Real Pain. We're going to be talking about Blitz. We're going to be talking about Cellar Door. We're going to be talking to the cast of Cross, starring my boy Aldous Hodge. I love me some Aldous Hodge. He is a real one. We're going to be talking about the Martha Stewart documentary, which is streaming on Netflix. We're also going to be talking about Here, starring Tom Hanks. And yeah, so that's it, y'all. I know that was quick. I didn't have any interviews for y'all today because I've been watching a lot of films, doing a lot of moderating and all that kind of thing. But I didn't want to leave you hanging with these films. I'm also in the coming weeks going to have these films, which I didn't put up, I don't think. Let's see here. I talked about blood. Oh yeah. So there's a film called Small Things Like These that we'll be talking about. The Piano Lesson is finally coming in November. Elton John, Never Too Late is coming in November. Wicked and Gladiator 2 are coming in November, right around Thanksgiving time, right along with Moana 2 and Spellbound at Netflix. Maria is coming in November with Angelina Jolie, The Seed of the Secret Fig, which I talked about and said that I saw. So I'll be talking about that. Of course, Cross will be coming on the 14th. Yeah, the 14th of November. So that's coming in November. That Christmas, we're going to get started into the Christmas thing. I can't believe it's that time of the year already. This year went fast, which is going to be on Netflix. So I've got all of that coming up with you. And there'll be some interviews coming up along the way in accordance with all of that too. So stay tuned. What you saying to me now? Moana 2 is live action. I'm not sure if Moana 2 is live action or if it's just a straight up animated. I'm thinking it might be live action, but don't quote me. I don't know for sure. I'll find out and I'll let you know when I come back. All right, y'all. Well, thank you, Sarah Productions, for hanging in there with me. And thank y'all all for popping in, whether you're here in real time or not. But honey, I'm telling you, check out that Menendez Brothers, check out the Menendez Brothers narrative feature, which is on Netflix, and then go back and check out that documentary. It's gonna, you will gag. You have a great week too. You have a great week too. I adore you. Thank you so much for supporting me. I appreciate it. All right. Again, if this is your first time joining me, give me a big thumbs up to let me know you were here. Click that bell for notifications if you were on the YouTube. And if you were on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook Live, or any place else, you can come back over here at YouTube and say hello to a sister too. All right. You have been hanging out with your girl, Carla Renata, the Curvy Film Critic. Have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful, blessed week, y'all. And I will see you on the flip side. Love, peace, and hair grease, and deuces.